Rabbanit Shira.
Shalom, Rabbanit Hamutal.
So my youngest daughter, Avia, she's 7, and she has an eye infection. And when we went to the doctor, she told him, whatever you give me, don't give me eye drops. And he looked at her and he's like, but you need eye drops. So 3 times a day, we have to wrestle in order to give her the eye drops. She is very hard to handle. And she says, I don't like it. And
she doesn't like the feeling of the drops in her eyes. I can understand. I can identify.
Yeah, she hates it. Anyway, I was thinking about this because this week we are in Perek Elu Em Hanechnakim, another kind of mitat bedin, suffocation, right? And one of the debates here is about can you not treat your parents when they're sick? Treating our kids is one thing, but it's a lot more complicated when we have to treat our parents. So the Gemara is discussing chas v'chalila if someone is hurting physically their parents. And then the Gemara is asking, wait, but what happens if you hurt your parents in order to make them feel better?
So you're not trying to hurt your parents, you're trying to do something good, you're taking care of them, but while doing that, maybe you're causing them a bruise, or you're inflicting pain, or you're causing some blood to come out in the process of making them better, of treating them. And it's funny because even though it's a question from the Gemara, it's a very relevant question. And we get asked that a lot because a lot of people are taking care of their parents. And a lot of people today, we have the option to have medical care at home. So a lot of parents are choosing to stay at home. And then we have the privilege of taking care of our parents. But while doing so, we need to ask ourselves, halachically, what are the borders of that thing? What are the limits? What are we allowed to do? We allowed to take care of them. Of course, we need to take care of them. But what are we not allowed to do? And one of the things that we're not allowed to do is
a lot of people don't know that.
A lot of people don't know that because it's very gentle. You need to take care of your parents, but you're not allowed to inject them with anything, even if it's not something that a nurse needs to do. But if it's just something very simple that you can do at home, you're not allowed to do that. Not medically, but halachically.
Even if you have the medical training.
Even if you have the medical training, even if that's your profession. So let's dig into that sugya. And let's just say that it's under the umbrella of suffocation. If we're talking about arba mitot beit din, we're talking about the 4 kinds of death that the beit din is giving as a punishment to different sins. So now we're talking about suffocation, and suffocation is something that if by accident you caused hurt to your parents.
Or on purpose. So the Mishnah on Pei Daled Amud Bet is saying Elu Em Hanechnakim. One of the examples is Hamakeh Aviv Ve'imo. So that's the beginning of the Mishnah, and then the Gemara is discussing. What does that mean? It says Hamakeh Aviv Ve'imo eino chayav ad she'aseh behem chabura. Only if you bruise your parents, then you are chayav. And then the Gemara keeps going and it says, wait, what about taking care of your parents and, for example, injecting something or drawing blood, which they used to do back then? So the Gemara is saying, Iba elehu ben ma'u sheyakiz dam le'aviv. Is the son allowed to do this, to draw blood from his father? Rav Matana omer ve'avta l'reacha kamocha.
Of course you're allowed to.
Because you would have wanted someone to do it for you. So if you're there, you're the one.
If you're the sick person, you would want someone to come and take care of you. By drawing your blood. So of course you are allowed to do that to your parents.
Rav Dimi bar Chinana amar makeh adam umakeh behema. Ma makeh behema lirfuah patur, af makeh adam lirfuah patur. So you would think that it's the same like treating any other human being or even an animal. But the problem is, since it's your father, it's a new issue. And then there are 2 stories about 2 rabbis who would not allow their sons to take care of them medically. Rav lo shavik lebrei lemishka lesilva. He would not allow his son to take out a thorn that was stuck in his foot or wherever. Mar brei ravina lo shavik lebrei lemiftach leikvata. He had some kind of a wound and it needed to be opened up. And he said to his son, you're not taking care of me. So are we in the ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, or are we going with the stories of the rabbis telling their sons, don't take care of me?
So halachically, there's a differentiation. The first differentiation that we're doing is between any other person and the kids of that parent.
Of course.
So any other person, of course, they're allowed. Parents, if you're the kids of the parents, then that's the problem. And then halachically, we have a few different conditions to how you are allowed to do it.
Exactly.
So the Rambam in Hilchot Mamrim, Perek Hey, he says, Hamakiz dam le'aviv, if you draw blood to your father, or shaya rofeh, and even if I'm the doctor and I'm doing some sort of a medical treatment to my parents, v'chatach lo basar, and I'm cutting in the flesh, or evar, and I even have to take off one of the organs, patur, dismissed. אף על פי שהוא פטור, but even though that you're dismissed, לכתחילה לא יעשה. You shouldn't do it to begin with.
Right.
אפילו להוציא סילון מבשר אביו או אמו לא יוציא. Even to take out a thorn out of their flesh, don't do it. שמא יעשה חבורה. Because we are worried that you will by accident bruise your parents.
Yeah.
במה דברים אמורים? בשיש שם אחר לעשותו. But what are we talking about? We're talking about a situation that there's someone else that is able to take care of them. Or
Instead
to
of
do
you. Exactly.
To do the medical treatment.
Yeah.
אבל אם אין שם שיעשה אלא הוא, but let's talk about a situation that there's no one there besides their kids, הרי הם מצטערים, and the parents are suffering because this thing is hurting them, הרי זה מקיז וחותך כפי מה שירשו לעשות. If the parents are allowing him, then you're allowed to do it.
And there's no one else.
There's no one else.
So the case...
I got... it's a bug in the corner. Okay.
So the Kesef Mishneh, Rabbi Yosef Karo, that interprets the Rambam, he says, remember the two stories from the Gemara? It only happened because they had someone else. כיוון שהיו מוצאים מי שירפאם, לא הב ושבקו לבניו, משום דדילמה הבו חבלי בהוטפי. Meaning, they did not stay in pain, sick and unattended, but they told their sons, listen, there's someone else who could do that.
Let's find someone else.
Don't treat me because I can have it treated somewhere else and by someone else. And it's not as if you have to choose between not treating your parents and having them suffer or you doing it. So it has to be noted that the parents did not stay sick and unattended.
So the first condition that we have is that the parents are allowing it. So you need to ask your parents for permission. And the second thing is that you have someone else.
You have no one else.
If you don't have anyone else that will do it, then you can ask your parents permission and then you can do it.
Yeah.
halakha, the Shulchan Aruch in Yoreh Doa. So he says, היה קוץ תחוב לאביו, if your dad has a thorn, לא יוציאנו, you should not take it out, שמא יבוא לעשות בו חבורה, because you're worried that he might, not on purpose, give him a bruise. וכן אם הוא מקיז דם, if you're drawing blood, או רופא לא יקיז דם לא יביב, ולא יחתוך לו איבר, אף על פי שמכוון לרפואה. So what you see here in the Shulchan Aruch, that it's exactly the language of the Rambam, but the opposite.
Yeah.
Meaning if the Rambam is saying you should do all of those things to your parents, the Shulchan Aruch is saying to halakha, don't. But then the Rema is giving us a note and saying, don't do it unless there's no one else to do it. But if there's no one else, then you're allowed to do anything that needs to be done if your parents are allowing you. But then the next halakha in the Shulchan Aruch, the one right after it, is talking about what about if your parents are
sinners.
Horrible people.
Yeah.
היו אביו ואימו רשעים גמורים ועוברי עבירה. Your parents are such bad people that Beit Din have decided that they're
convicted and they're going to be executed.
And they're going to be executed and their punishment is death.
Yeah.
So you already know that it's not only that you think that they are resha'im, but they actually have done horrible things that they deserve
and
death.
they were on trial. So everybody knows that they are resha'im.
נכון. Even though אסור לו להכותם, even though that this is the case with his parents, he's not allowed to hit them ולקללם, and you're not allowed to curse them. ואם הכה אותם או קיללם, פטור, ואם עשו תשובה, הרי זה חייב ונהרג עליהם, אף על פי שיוצאים להרג. So you're not allowed. So I think what the Shulchan Aruch is trying to do is trying to give us the borders of how are we supposed to treat our parents. So even if your parents are
suffering, even if they're sinners, you are not allowed to hurt them because it's not about them, it's more about you. You have to have kibud horim no matter what. Even if you really want to help your parents and you're a nurse or a doctor, find someone else because your relationship with them has to stay in a different level.
You have to stay the kid and the medical treatment needs to be the medical treatment. But in case the chas v'chalila, there's no one there,
you should do it.
Then you should do it because taking care of your parents is more important than not having them suffer, chas v'chalila. It's more important than what you might do. Be'ezrat Hashem, we hope all to take good care of our parents. Besimcha, benachat, out of health and not out of sorrow. Be'ezrat Hashem.
Besorot tovot.
Besorot tovot.